Hey people, this is my trailer analysis for the third and probably final trailer for The Dark Knight Rises. As with my last trailer analysis for the movie, I don't claim to have any real brilliant insight as to the plot of the movie. I'm just someone who follows these kind of movies pretty closely and has a decent knowledge of the comics, so I like to share my speculation. After that opening shot of Gotham City, we get a look at an older, grumpier-looking Bruce Wayne, and he has a very different vibe from what we're used to seeing with Bruce. Other than the very beginning of Batman Begins, he's always very slick and clean-shaven. This look at the character, he looks completely different. I mean, if I saw this shot of Christian Bale, I'd think it was from a different movie. He does, however, remind me of someone, though. Now, I'm probably just grasping here, but there is a lot of evidence that suggests that what happened with Ra's al Ghul in the League of Shadows is going to be important to The Dark Knight Rises, so I think it's worth considering. And next we cut to the interior of one of the planes. You can tell by the surroundings, the chair and the circular ceiling, and Bane is having this hood removed from his head, and it looks like his hands are bound behind him, and he's the prisoner of these people. There's not much I want to say about this scene here since it's very self-explanatory, but I did want to make note of the fact that this group of people who is working with Bane, to pull something like this off, have to be very well funded, well organized, well trained, brave, and probably very crazy to do something like this. We cut back to the interior of the smaller plane, and Bane looks very comfortable in control of the situation. I have seen the prologue, which is the scene featured here, and I don't want to spoil anything, but you can kind of infer what's going on. Here we have a conversation between Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle in which she tells him that a storm is coming, and he says that it sounds like she is looking forward to it, to which she replies that she's adaptable. And I think that this implies that she is aware that Bane is coming and that he has some kind of plan for Gotham, and she is enthusiastic about that. And since we know that at the beginning of this, Batman has been gone for a while, Bruce hasn't been Batman, I think it's possible that Selina sees Bane as someone who will fill the void left by Batman. Here we have another shot of Bane clutching this very scared-looking man and telling him that he is Gotham's reckoning, once again reinforcing the idea that Bane has a very big plan for what he wants to do to Gotham City as a whole. Bane pushes a button. Once again we see this scene that was shown in the last trailer of this football field getting destroyed. More violence and chaos. Here we see some guy doing a very bad job of hiding. Here we see the mysterious character John Blake, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, standing by this school bus and looking in shock as these two major bridges are destroyed. These kids here are probably in the school bus that John Blake was standing next to, looking at the bridges as well. Make a note of this kid in the center because I'm pretty sure we'll see him later on. Here we have a shot of someone, presumably Bruce Wayne, looking very weak, and he's barefoot, probably being taken by these people in the boots. Here we have a scene with John Blake talking to Selina Kyle, and he asks her if they killed him, presumably talking about Batman. And she replies that she's not sure. I think this is probably a very revealing part of the trailer. Judging by the feeling I'm getting from Selina in this scene, and earlier in the trailer, I think that she was probably a part of what Bane was doing, and then once he takes down Batman, which is very clearly implied that he does in this movie, she realizes that she wasn't fully aware of how far he was going to go, so she regrets any role that she might have played in taking down Batman, and now she's probably turning to John Blake to get some help, maybe redeem herself by switching sides. Quick shot of a disheveled looking Bruce Wayne. And it looks like he is climbing out of this underground area, probably after he has recovered from his defeat at the hands of Bane. Here we see the beaten, bloody, defeated Bruce Wayne asking Bane why he didn't kill him. And Bane replies that his punishment must be more severe, probably leading into the line from the last trailer, "When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die." So not only is Bane very interested in just destroying Gotham as a whole, he wants to pretty much torture Batman, someone who he has never met before. So my theory as to why he would have this much of a focus on Batman is that it might be vengeance for what Bruce did in Batman Begins, ruining the League of Shadows' plans, and also causing the death of Ra's al Ghul. Here we see the bat symbol, drawn by this kid here, who I'm pretty sure is the same kid from the bus we saw John Blake standing next to when the bridges were being destroyed, which would make sense for them to possibly have this connection. I'm not sure what the link between them would be, but the conversation they're having, the kid is asking if John thinks that Batman is going to come back. And this really reminded me a lot of Spider-Man 2 when Peter's neighbor is asking him if he thinks that Spider-Man will come back. Just a little connection there. We get a shot of Bane holding the shattered Batman cowl, probably right after he's beaten Batman. And this is just a farther away shot of him in that scene. Here we see Selina looking into some kind of cell. We're not sure who's on the other side of it. I think it's possible that Bruce could be there, and she finds Bruce and maybe brings him back. Bane pushes John Blake, and he falls down into this dark area here where it looks like there's a lot of rubble. Here's another scene of chaos. Here we see Catwoman riding the pod, which is Batman's motorcycle. And I think it's possible that after Bane defeats Batman and he's gone, she might step up to try to take on that role and be the new hero. We hear a little bit more of the conversation between John Blake and Selina Kyle, and he asks her, "Why'd you run, Bane?" And she says, "You should be just as afraid of him as I am." So something about her experience with Bane has shaken her up, but John Blake doesn't really seem to be that afraid of him yet. Here we see Batman facing Bane, and I'm not sure which scene this is here. This might be the scene in which Bane defeats him and cracks the cowl, or it might be a completely different scene. Here we see Alfred speaking to Bruce, saying, "I won't bury you, I've buried enough members of the Wayne family." Obviously very concerned about something that Bruce plans on doing that it will put his life at risk. And Alfred has obviously gone through a lot. I mean, we think of Bruce having gone through a lot with the loss of his parents, but we don't often think of the loss that Alfred has also suffered and what he's had to go through. Jim Gordon having a conversation with Batman. Nice iconic shot here of Batman overlooking the city. Here we see Catwoman talking to Batman, telling him, "You don't owe these people anymore, you've given them everything." And he replies, "Not everything, not yet." I believe implying that he hasn't given his life in the service of these people yet, and he might knowingly risk his life and possibly sacrifice himself to save Gotham. And it also shows that Catwoman has a lot of respect for Batman, which contrasts with what seems like her disdain for Bruce Wayne. Here we see Lucius Fox, and I think this is the first time we've seen him in any of the trailers for this movie yet. Batman is wet here, so judging by the scene where we see Bane walking away with the broken cowl and all the water around him there, we can imply that this is probably the scene where he defeats Batman. Another shot of Jim Gordon, and there's a body there in the bottom right corner, so something has gone down. We've got this shot in the prison as this guy does a flip and the guys in the background look really unimpressed. And here we see the Gotham City police all gathered together ready to charge and go into battle, it looks like. And this shot directly follows up from that scene, with the police confronting this large group of people here, and I'm not sure what Bane could have done to cause this, but it does kind of remind me of The Dark Knight when the Joker says, "When the chips are down, these civilized people will eat each other." And that seems to be what's happening. These people are just kind of tearing each other apart, and it seems pretty senseless. Here's a shot of the confrontation between Batman and Bane in what looks like the climax of the movie. Here we get a shot of Bruce kissing a character named Miranda Tate, and I don't want to spoil anything, but from what is known, it seems like this character is much more than meets the eye. Here we have what looks like a very cool scene of Batman and Catwoman taking on a group of people together. And one thing I've noted from this trailer, just from the brief clips that they've shown, is that the fighting looks a lot better than the fighting in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Once again, we see Batman's flying vehicle, the same shot that we saw at the end of the last trailer. We get a little bit of banter between Catwoman and Batman. These people are all looking toward the sky as this police officer's hat is blown off. And our final shot is of Batman in his flying vehicle as he goes over this building and does some evasive maneuvers to avoid these incoming missiles. So that is really all I have to say for my trailer analysis. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, subscribe, and tune in next time. I will definitely be doing a review of The Dark Knight Rises once it comes out, so if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, please check that out.